Yay.
Good to see you, man.
Oh man, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm good. I had a few health problems actually. I went on some trips over the summer that were really great. I saw a lot of really great poet friends. But unfortunately, at the end of the summer, I got really ill and I had a small seizure.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah, it was a medication thing. It was also a lifestyle thing. Things kind of caught up with me during COVID. I wasn't eating right, all kinds of stuff. So I went into inpatient, I felt, and it really helped me out a lot. So I've been doing really well and feeling a lot stronger physically and mentally. Back into, a healthier lifestyle for me. I've got to gain weight. I lost a bunch of it.
Yeah,
Some.
yeah. Well, I mean, from where I'm sitting, you look super healthy, but I was curious before we talked because I know I reached out to you a few months ago and you were just kind of like I don't know, where in the world is Carmen San Diego? You were like I think in Colorado for a while and then Northern California and
Yeah.
what's some of the other places that you went to?
I went to Colorado. I went to what else? Colorado, San Francisco. I went to New England. I was in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Maine all summer. It was great for me. I needed to get out.
Man,
I,
change of
I
scenery is so important.
yeah, and I traveled too much, I think, for my own sake and my own mental health. But I'm gonna be traveling here again very soon. So
Well,
I'm
I
excited.
mean, for not being able to travel for like a year, it's like it's probably just the wanderlust was just built up. So were you visiting friends and family all over the country or?
Just all friends and family. Had a really great, had some good visits for sure. I wrote some poetry, got some of that going. That definitely dealt with the traveling because I've been in Long Beach and I'm on a fixed income. I'm disabled. I was going through it for a while there, like everyone else. It helped give me some perspective.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. I mean, pretty much everybody that I've talked to, friends and family, plus everybody that I've been talking to since starting to do the podcast earlier this year is 99% on the same page of just like the last year and a half have just sucked. Like we just have to like go that last few months and then everybody's kind of expecting or hoping that 2022 is going to be like the big year that poets can go back to doing like live open mics and
Right.
actors can get back to doing their projects and musicians can play in bars and clubs again. So there's just like this sense of just waiting. And I know you and I both kind of used our time wisely, at least last year, just to kind of just we don't have anything else to do. There's no other choice but to just put stuff out. And I'll hold up the book here that you were nice enough to send me and just say, first of all, welcome to Make Your Own Fun. I'm
Thank
here with author and poet Kevin Ridgway. This was the book he was nice enough to send me last year.
you.
So I know this collection in particular is a series of chapbooks. So what was the impetus besides the fact that you were stuck at home for however many months to put this one together? Was this something like pre-lockdown that you'd already said I'm going to plan on doing this in
Yeah,
2020?
it was a plan. I have a friend and publisher and a fellow poet named Thomas R. Thomas who put out one chapbook of mine early on with Arroyo Seco Press, which is his little press in Long Beach. He wanted to publish poets that didn't have a chapbook, so he did mine, and later on, he was like, you've done so many chapbooks, Kevin. They're out of print. You should put them back together. And I was like, okay. And he agreed to do it. And he put together a book, and he did a good job. I'm really pleased with it. It's a lot of stuff that when I really started writing, that's what the book is. I've looked at it. It's been a while since I've seen a copy of it. I haven't had any copies. I'm gonna have some.
Hey, it's a good problem to have. It means people want your stuff. So take me through the last year and a half, and I can't think of anyone that I know that's put out as many writing projects, especially just funneled toward poetry. So aside from Fossil of the New Scene, I know you just put out a chapbook not long ago, and then you put out one before that. So how many have you done or put out just since this one? Has it been three or four?
Something like that, 3 or 4. I Thomas R. Thomas wants to do another chapbook anthology, Fossil of the New Scene Volume 2. We're
Well,
talking
yeah, I mean,
about
this is
doing
only
that.
up to like 2014, so that's 7 years
Yeah,
ago.
so we want to do that. I've got chapbooks, one called Grandma Goes to Rehab with Analog Submission Press. I did Girls, chapbook of poems about failed romances that I've had. I did what else did I do? I did another one. Oh, I did the Purple Crayon
Right.
poems,
Yeah,
which
I
I
remember
wrote
the
in
Purple
crayon.
Crayon. Yeah.
And also I did my most recent one is called In His Own Little World. It's from a small press called Between Shadows Press. It's a great press by Tom Bakalis. It's based in New Jersey. They publish a lot of poets that I like that are prolific. I did a lot of poems that in that chapbook in particular. Those are a lot of my COVID poems, like poems not necessarily like just poems I wrote during that time. Basically, is what that book is, and that was my last chapbook project. I'm working on a music project with my friend Gabriel Ricard about music poems, but I need to finish my end. I've also got a full length in the works. I'll know more about it hopefully soon.
Okay.
I've got a lot of,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
I've
was
had to,
meaning to ask you
I have to,
just to kind of like frame it for myself and also to um, understand, and help the people watching that don't know you yet. So obviously, this is a collection of chapbooks. Now, the ones that you put out in the last year, are those also older writings that you were just waiting to put out, or were they newer writings that they just fit into this framework and have got, let's say, you're
yeah.
thinking, okay, I've got 20 or 22 poems. I'm just going to put those out for this press because they asked for something. And then a couple months later, I have these other poems. Or were they all like older backlog stuff that you like, I just got to get these out?
Recently and all this recent stuff is new, other than
Wow,
Fossil. Yeah, other than Fossil, everything's new.
that's
New
incredible.
in the past 2 years or so. Yeah. I have a lot of time to write. I'm disabled, as I said. I have a mental illness that I'm proactive with for the most part in my treatment. I write a lot about it,
Right.
about my experiences with it. I have a bipolar diagnosis. Throughout, I became kind of a Facebook concern during COVID because it affected my symptoms. I wasn't taking a good enough care of myself, and it was a learning experience for me. That experience.
Well,
I had a lot
Facebook
of
is a good way to not only stay connected with people but to also just post up there and say, hey guys, I'm having a rough day. Anybody got
yeah
5 minutes? And I know we've chatted on the phone a few times when I've had some time, but
yes.
um, do you feel like the traveling that you did informed any of the writing or the chapbooks, or the traveling was just more to like change of scenery, and then if a poem or three came from it, great.
Change of scenery,
Yeah.
change of scenery. And perspective, and seeing I have a lot of friends. I'm grateful for that. And hopefully I'll be able to see more and more as time goes on. It really was good for me.
That's great, man. I'm so happy that that all came together. So now you mentioned the poetry with music project. Now is that something that's kind of like still in the works and you can't quite divulge
Yeah.
details about that yet?
Well, we don't have, we don't have a publisher yet or anything.
No.
It's just a project that
I
we're
mean,
doing.
hey, I mean, to work on stuff is still
Yeah.
great.
Right.
I mean, I
That's
know for me, it's like if I didn't have, just to be able to close myself off in a room for a few hours, here and there,
yeah.
it's like I'd go bonkers
Yeah.
because it's just so much going on in the world, and we're all affected, and all of our friends and families are affected, and our relationships with people. And I know that a lot of us really took just being able to hang out with people for granted. I remember being with a group of friends, like maybe 2019, and sitting in someone's basement just having a drink with like 4 or 5 friends, thinking, this is kind of boring. I could just be doing this at home. And
Yeah.
now it's like you don't know what you have, right?
Well, right. I had a lot of.
Um, so I know that you've primarily been a poet, but are there other types of writing that you've done in the past, or that you want to try to do in terms of different kinds of writing?
When I was a kid growing up, I wanted to be a screenwriter. I was involved in acting with my brother and stuff like that growing up, but I had no interest in acting at a certain point seriously because I just don't know, for many reasons. He was doing it, he did very well with it, he continues to, and that inspires me. But I do like screenwriting. I noticed I wanted to congratulate you. You won an award for some screenwriting work.
I feel great about it, but I also, I was saying this in another podcast that I did a couple weeks ago, that we submitted stuff so long ago that because everything was locked down, all the festivals and everything was just submit all you want, people, and we'll let you know. And then it's like a year goes by, and then I got notified, and it was kind of funny because I was getting a lot of these notifications like August and September, and I'm going, oh, I guess they're still doing that festival. I didn't even know about it. And then, so I feel good, but I hate to say it to a lot of people, and I know you're saying you're an aspiring screenwriter too, is that a lot of it is luck. A lot of it is
Yeah.
whatever that particular panel is looking for. I mean, these things that I've been submitting this past year have been short film scripts. And you just never know. It's the mood of the panel and what they want to see. And on that particular day, it's not that different from when you submit a poem or a story to a magazine or to a writing contest. There's always usually 3 to 5 editors, and whichever digital lap it
Yeah.
falls into. And I know that as much as you've been published in the last few years here, that I guess the old analogy is the baseball batting average, that if you get accepted 30% of the time, you're an all-star. So I got to ask you, you've probably got a backlog of rejections too, just like me.
I have so many rejections. I get way I get rejections all the time, every day, pretty much. If when I'm really busy and submitting a lot and on a spree, it's just part of it. When I first started submitting, I got rejections only for like 6 months to a year. I was thrilled when I got an acceptance letter. It took a lot of getting over that. I got an acceptance today. It was great. I was so thrilled. But you know what was humbling about it? The editor, who I respect, he gave me some pointers on the other poems, which he said needed revision.
Wow,
And
that's awesome. They took the time to do that.
yeah, I know. I've been getting more rejections like that. It wasn't a rejection though. It was, he took one poem, he liked that, and that's great. But yeah, he took the time for that, and that means a lot to me. And there's a lot of, there's just a lot of stuff going on out there with the rejections. I started editing too. I did a few anthologies. I did something with Thomas R. Thomas, and I didn't like rejecting the people, but it's
It
part of it.
sucks. I've tried to do that myself, and it sucks because invariably, and even if it's a slush pile and you're going through, 50 or 100 submissions, there's going to be people, even friends, and it's like, if you know them and you know their process and you know how hard they work on it, that they don't want that rejection because you don't want that rejection. And invariably it'll come up too that you were on the editing staff, and no one likes to point the fingers, but sooner or later it comes out, like, well, I submitted stuff and I thought you would accept it. Well, I mean, there were
Yeah.
7 things in my stack and the other 6 were better.
Mm,
It
right.
sucks. Oh, That's a kick in the crotch every time. It's
Yeah.
horrible. So are you originally from the Long Beach area?
No, I'm originally from Whittier. Well, it's closer to Long Beach. I mean, Southern California. I'm from Whittier, California.
Okay.
Born and raised, born in Bellflower, at the Kaiser in the 80s, back in the day, that kind of thing. Lived in New England. That's one reason why I went out there, one of the trips that I took. I lived there, New York. My brother still lives in the Northeast, but
Wow.
I live in Southern California still and have been for about a decade.
Okay. So, what
Yeah.
brought you to the Long Beach area aside from the fact that it's by an ocean and a beach that no one really swims in that much?
My dad was in prison at Terminal Island when I was a kid growing up, which is close to Long Beach, past like San Pedro or something like that. There's a federal penitentiary there. And we used to go visit my dad as a kid, and I was always into like I really like that movie Popeye, the Rob Altman one with Robin Williams,
Yeah.
like the kind of seafaring town, sort of nautical kind of thing. And we would be going through there to see my dad, which was like awesome. I wanted to see my dad, and we're going through, and it's like there's the Commodore, there's all this, there's the shipyard, let's go see Pappy and that kind of stuff. And I had memories about it. And I still do, even though my dad's serving a he's serving a life sentence right now. My mom has passed on since then. That kind of is what the connection was for me. What finally sold me was the poetry scene.
Okay.
A bunch of
And
people,
when did
yeah.
that? Well, let's stop there and then go back a little bit because you're about to talk about the poetry scene in Long Beach. But what initially, when you were younger, um, got you interested yourself in poetry and kind of maybe talk a little bit about some authors or some
Uh,
books or just how you kind of got involved, just you yourself.
when I was a kid, I read a lot. I didn't have any friends. There weren't any kids my age. It was always the case until my whole childhood. It's nothing. It's not too terrible that happened because I did a lot of reading. My brother left like all these books behind. He's way older than me. He's like 10 years older than me. He's really smart, like I am, but he left behind the books, and a lot of it had poetry in it and literature. I got into 20s, 30s, and 40s poetry, night of the 20th century. That was the first thing that I really liked. I liked E. E. Cummings a lot. I liked a lot of experimental stuff. I liked prose at first. It took a long time for me to get into poetry, and I did when I chased a girl to a class in college. Um, I started listening to music too, and I would listen to the lyrics, hear the lyrics, write those down when I was like a teenager, 17 or so, like cheesy lyrics, lots of rhyming stuff, even like like 10 years ago even. Well, yeah, but it was E. E. Cummings. It was, and then it just kind of went you know, overboard. It like completely switched when I went to college and I got into Allen Ginsberg. I got into Jack Kerouac. I got into William Burroughs. I got into my favorite poet, I think, might be Richard Brautigan, or there's a bunch of other ones. I love Bukowski. I got into Bukowski when I was in college. Um, a friend of mine, he was like a punk rock kid, and we were in like a poetry group together. And we did like a workshop. And at the end of one workshop, he's like, Ridgeway, you've got to read Bukowski. And I'm like, what? Bukowski? Bukowski? I was like, San Pedro. And I started reading his poetry. I liked his books. I liked his poetry more. It brought me home. It made me homesick. And yeah, he was a huge influence. There's no getting around that. Um, I got I got getting into him brought me to the Outlaw Bible of American Poetry, which was a gigantic thing that S.A. Griffin was involved in, as I understand, some other people. I read a lot of poets in there that I'd never heard of. like Gerald Laughlin, for instance, people like that I met later actually, or had some correspondence with. I got into underground literature. I was into like stuff on the outside of mainstream society, basically. So that would usually be poetry like that. Street poets like Jack Nicholane, like Jack Hirschman, who passed away recently. I like a lot of San Francisco poetry, which is why I was there this summer. Just lots of different things. I could go on and on. I
Well, I
should have
mean,
made a
one thing
list.
I've found, and I'm sure you did this too, is because you mentioned music, and it's always interesting for me to find out, especially like the singer songwriter kind of genre, and to read up about them, and then kind of figure out like, well, who inspired them. And it might have been someone who was just a little bit more literate of a singer songwriter, and then go back even further and find out who inspired them. And it's just really crazy to hear, once you get past like the early like blues stuff, like your Robert Johnson and your Muddy Waters and people like that kind of got that kind of music going, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but you go back even further, and every once in a while, somebody will really shock you, and they'll say like, "Oh, well, yeah, I went to my local library, and they had recordings of Civil War balladeers or people during the Revolutionary War that were writing verse to, melodies that were 500 years old, but they'd heard the melodies and they put their own words to it. So it's just kind of interesting that you don't really think about it when you're a kid, but when you get older, you realize, at a certain point, we all kind of are part of this fabric and like this tradition, of like oral storytelling.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I got into that a lot. That interests me more than acting does. My brother and I we were very. I'm interested in oral history a lot. They have to do a lot of biographies now. Actually, are done that way, or at least ones that I've read recently. Oral, But anyway, um,
So you were
one.
about to, before I so rudely cut you off before, you were about to make the left turn from Whittier and end up in Long Beach. So now that we kind of get a grasp of what kind of got you into poetry, what pulled you into the Long Beach poetry scene?
I liked poets that were here, or based here, of course. A lot of the ones that I liked, like Clint Margrave, Donna Hilbert, Gerald Laughlin, Kevin Lee, people like that. That I had been interested in and had been reading, and I would see at readings. I started submitting to magazines that were local. Fred Voss and Joan Job Smith became interesting to me in the Outlaw Bible, and did Gerald Laughlin too. I was interested in them, and I started reading them when I started going back to school at Mount Sac up in Walnut, California. That's why I was drawn to it. I started doing workshops again when I was in school. And they started coming to the classes. Like they were like, John Brantingham is an educator that I've had some experience with, along with Sid Butler Bartman, at Mount Sac, and they would come. And John Brantingham went to school in Long Beach. He's got connections to Long Beach, and he brought a lot of those guys in, and I got to read them and meet them. I started submitting to the magazines that they put out, publications. And then once I started getting poems in, I started coming to the readings from Whittier. I didn't drive, and I wore flip flops. I was like 300 pounds, and like I went and I did it. I was telling my girlfriend at the time, I'm so nervous. I was very nervous about it, about becoming a part of a community. But yeah, people embraced me. I started doing readings. Had a festival here some years ago, and I even read in that, and
I think I
decided
remember
to.
that. That was in downtown Long Beach, right?
Yeah, it
About
was
three,
on
4 years ago, maybe.
something like that. I
Yeah,
had a
I remember. I
moment.
remember sitting in the back row, and I was like, "Man, this guy's really good."
Oh, thank you. That was a
Yeah.
good day. it inspired me to move here. I felt like, okay, maybe I should come here. There's a good recovery scene. There's good mental health services here. I live in a transitional home, and it's been good to me. I've been here for about 6 years.
That's
So,
great. I'm glad that and these organizations are still around to help people. I know for a time I kind of had a rough situation, and I was living in a hostel in Venice, and
okay.
that was a really rough time because with a hostel, you've got people coming and going all hours of the night and the day, and they're from different countries, and they don't really respect you or your belongings. And if you're asleep, sometimes you're kind of like you and your stuff or your suitcase or whatever you have. It's kind of fair game. And kind of what got me through that is this was like 11 years ago. I wrote a book of comedy monologues, and I self-published that, but that was just a way for me to like see things going on and kind of make characters, you know, fictitious characters around a lot of these people, and their make up life stories for them. And hopefully you haven't stayed in too many hostels, because I personally don't recommend it. Like, you know, to travel to like another city or another country might be great, but something about that place in Venice where I was, it was like I literally slept with one eye open. And I think I was forced to be there for about maybe 4 or 5 months before. I was like between jobs, and it was just horrible. But yeah, I've been in transitional living, and it sucks ass. So I'm
Yeah,
right there with you.
right.
So hopefully you've never had to go through that where you're kind of like sleeping with one eye open, making
I
sure that the
have.
other three people in the room aren't gonna like.
Yeah, I have, but usually not for too long.
Don't recommend it. So if you're watching this at home or your phone or whatever, and you're thinking about it, only travel to hostels with like a group of friends. Like, safety in numbers, people. Anyway, enough of that PSA. So, have you, it sounds like you have you traveled outside of California and performed at open mics outside of California? What's your experience like with that?
I've not done that. I haven't
Okay.
done an open mic outside of California. I wanted to for years. That opportunity will probably arise. I've done some readings. I did a reading at the Kurt Vonnegut Library in Indianapolis for their anthology. They put a really fat anthology out every year at the museum. And they took some of my older poems, and I went there and I read there, and that was awesome. I did one open mic. I take that back. What am I thinking? Recently, Paul Corman Roberts, who's a poet that I've got a connection to, and who's been very supportive of my work. He's really great. He's based in Oakland. He had me do a reading in Oakland actually in July,
Okay. Yeah.
with some other poets, and I had a great time. It was wonderful.
Yeah. I haven't been out of the state for a while to perform anything, but I had a really great um, experience in San Francisco. They were really
Right.
welcoming. A lot of um, I guess a few of the readings I had up there, there was a weird kind of crowd initiation where sometimes people will come like right up to you, and you've got the microphone here and your pages or your book, and they're right here. And it's just a weird ritual thing, and you just got to get through it and
Yeah.
survived, I guess. But you know, it's like that. And I've done some stuff, Chicago, New York. Um,
Yeah. I haven't. Yeah.
but a lot of that came from the fact that I had a gig. Oh God, this was like 2004 or five. I was a stage manager for a touring deaf children's theater show. So on days off, if I wasn't exhausted, I'd just kind of wander into the town we were in and find out if there's anything going on. And sometimes you're gonna get up and be by yourself, and you're gonna get booed and things thrown at you, because it's been my experience that a lot of the smaller towns, they'd rather, if you're not going to go up there and sing a song, they'd rather just listen to the jukebox, even if it is an open mic night. But you got to do
Yeah.
it and toughen up, you know. So have you had any weird, bizarre open mic experiences, either like something went wacky with what you were doing or like a heckler or anything like that?
My pants fell down one time, like twice at an open mic. I was gonna go up. I was walking up. I was really overweight too still, so it was like do do do. I was like, what the fuck? I went like I pulled them up, and I kept going. I kept going. No one said anything. Everyone was like, oh. And I kept going, and then it went again. I was like, what the fuck? Seriously? And so there's a picture of me from that reading where I've got my thing in my hand, but I'm holding my pants up. I'm like, and then there was the Long Beach one. I got a terrible haircut at that before that reading. It was a mullet. There's like a photo of me that Thomas R. Thomas took where I've got the mullet. I'm up on stage. I guess I was okay, but the picture of me, like the mullet, I'm just like there's like a just terrible like action shot of my eyes and stuff like that. And one time I was on like an iPad and I was trying to like read a poem, and it was kind of a sexy new poem, and it wasn't the best poem, but then the iPad went off. And one time also, I didn't have the right glasses, and I was loaded. And I put the glasses on, and I couldn't see anything in the poem that I was reading. I was just like, blah, blah, blah. I tried to do it. I tried to pull it off, and it was.
Sometimes it's for the best, because if they've never heard of you and they don't know the piece, how are they going to know that if it's not, that's not how it goes? You know?
It was the fact that I tried to do it. It was so painful. I just said, does anybody have glasses? Somebody did, and I was able to do the piece, but I was I was embarrassed. It made me think.
There's been so many times where I've tried to be like, I don't know, the hip kids or whatever, and read from my phone or something, and the fucking battery will die, or I'll smear something on the screen, or there's a glare from the light and I can't read and I look, ridiculous. So I try my best to just either have a notebook or some printed pages or whatever. Sometimes you can't help it, and sometimes you get in a hurry, and sometimes you drop your pages. And I've dropped reams of paper in a parking lot in a rainstorm, and I was like, fuck. And there's been times where I've rushed in, and the certain venues, they charge a flat cover to get in, and you're paying your $3 or $4. And I go when I want to get a beverage or something to support the diner or the cafe, and I sit down and I turn around, and then like the backpack or my elbow or something, and I knock over coffee on the pages, and I'm like, God damn it. like oh, I must have a curse or something. But you know what, I mean, for the most part, people are like really understanding, and they're super supportive. I mean, you get a couple of like jackass college kids that are just there to fuck with people, and they're gonna have that anywhere you go, because they're not really there for the show. They're kind of there for their own entertainment, especially if it's affiliated with the university. They're probably already like half drunk as it is.
Sure. Right.
So I've been there. Oh my God, I've been there. I went to a reading one time in Georgia, and the power went out while I was on stage.
Oh.
And then I could hear people panic, and it was like a rainstorm or whatever, and like rats, they were like trying to run, and I just took like 3 steps where I thought the stage was, and just was like, just ate it, fucking just ate it.
Oh my.
And I just
God.
like, it hurt. I knew I had blood on my nose and my face, and I was like, just lay here, because if you try to crawl in the dark, somebody's gonna run into you or crush you or whatever. So I've had people stalk me early on at readings. I've had people, like, I used to play guitar, and I used to incorporate like a song or two into like a set if I was a feature. And I had people follow me around and sit in the front row and yell out, different song titles, or like, boo, you played that last time, or like, don't you know any songs that aren't yours? So yeah, I've unfortunately seen it all. But so take me through kind of like your writing process, in terms of like, do you keep like a notebook and a pen by your bed, or Just keep paper with you at all times, or if you're at a restaurant, you grab like a napkin and just scribble something before you forget the idea?
Every, ideally, I'm able to get everything down on paper, like notes. I carry a paper with me. I've got paper by my bed. I've had iPads in the past. That's, it is what it is, but just to have it, do it. I've done that. I go to a program during the day for my wellness, and I carry things around. If I can't work on something, I definitely have an idea or like a turn of phrase or something. I put it down and I play with it later. That's usually what it is. If I have an idea and I can't work on it, play with it later. Um, it's a puzzle for me to work on a poem sometimes. Just I don't know. It takes me out of myself a lot of the time. I used to get up at 5 in the morning to write. I can still maybe do that in the future, but lately I changed that. I actually write early, even in the evening, 6 and 7 o'clock instead. I did a total switch just to change it. My energy's good then too, as it is in the morning. I'm too tired to write like at noon.
Well, yeah, and that's also like with the heat waves that we've been going through lately. Like
Yeah,
early in the morning for me, I find I'm like the most lucid. I mean, I've got to get my daughter up and like get her out of the house like really quick to get to school and everything.
right.
So sometimes I'm just maybe even as I'm driving, like yelling at my phone, like all the other people in Orange County on the freeway, just to think of an idea. But yeah, there. I mean, I think that unfortunately for me, the days of staying up till like 1, 2 in the morning to chase down an idea, I just can't do that anymore. Like once I turned like 40, my body pretty much was like, "Fuck you!" Like I can't do that thing where we could in our 20s where we could be up until like 1 or 2 in the morning and then be up at 7 or 8 to go work or to go to some appointment or be somewhere you had to be and still be like lucid and together and with it. can't Sadly can't do that anymore. So
Right.
changes in the body after 40, I guess.
I'm not looking forward to it. I'm
So let me
almost there.
ask you this, because this is something else I brought up to some other poets and I've gotten some fun responses to it. Have you ever been hanging out with friends or on a date or something and you're either like in somebody's living room or at a diner or coffee shop and you're talking to somebody across the table and then you suddenly get an idea and they can see it happen on your face, that you're just like listening to the conversation but you're slowly like reaching into a bag you're like oh yeah uh-huh, and then you're getting out like your notebook and your pen and then you have to do this and kind of, can I just real quick, can I just, does that ever
Yeah,
happen?
people can see things on my face usually. I'll tell a lie. I'll say it. My face will be like, so, and my face. I just I was that was the one good thing about my acting thing was I can still do it. I can manipulate my face, but sometimes I don't know the strength of my face when I'm not looking at it. So when I'm going, I try to be cool. One thing I've done recently is the phone. I'll try to just tap something, act like I'm just doing a quick text. I'm like, what are you doing? You're like totally into something. What's going on with you?
Yeah.
And what is it? You seem really distracted. And sometimes I'll just be like, I'm like, what? Huh? No, 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 no. That's when it falls apart for me.
Yeah, I try not to use the phone thing so much anymore because I just
Doesn't.
know that it looks like I'm responding to a text or an email, and I know like when you're talking to somebody like in a
Mhm.
setting like that, like a restaurant or somebody's house, that's rude. So
Mhm.
I try to have the notebook with me, but then that everybody knows. Like if you're doing this and you're nodding and like considering and pondering and then you're just getting out this spiral notebook with a pen and you're like, oh, that's really, she said that, oh, I didn't think she would be that kind of person to say that about pancakes, that's interesting. And then but to me it's like if I can just get like the zygote or like the title or just whatever it's going to be, just really quick, 5 6 words, and then I can close it and be like, I'm so sorry, continue. But yeah, I've gotten some really funny responses to that, where people who are any kind of artist, you get that kind of like lightning bolt thing in your head, and like, idea. And you know how it is too, as a poet, especially I feel like poets, we're kind of chasing down a feeling, whereas a short story, you're playing a plot and things like that. But like a poem, I always feel like I don't get like at least part of this down. If I go back, when I'm done hanging out with these friends 3 or 4 hours later, it might not be gone. The idea might not be gone, but it's not gonna have that great like urgency of like, I've got to get this out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I will admit that on occasion I have gone to open mics, and I have been that jackass that is sitting there politely listening, and then suddenly I get an idea, whether it's something I've been thinking about all day, or the person at the microphone sparked something and I went, oh yeah. And it's not that I'm not listening, it's just I want to get that, like I said, just the amoeba, the zygote of the thing down, close the notebook, and then some people will sit there and write, the Iliad in the back of the poetry reading, and then someone's sweeping up and turning off the lights and kicking them out. But so take me back to some of the early readings you went to on the West Side, and kind of some of your favorite places, because I think I've probably been to a lot of the same venues, but we've both been doing this for a long time, and the thing that kind of makes me sad about the economy, and also everything kind of morphing into being only online, is a lot of these places are closing, and it's just a real bummer.
Yeah. Well, early on, the first place that I did a reading at, or that I think I even went to an open, was at Gatsby Books.
Cool bookstore, yeah.
One of the features back here that I did there. Very supportive. Sean Moore was very supportive of my work all the way up until I did a book release like a year ago before COVID, and we did it there. I love doing readings there. A lot of people, Long Beach poetry people come out. And it has been a great like community for me. Just they had readings all the time. They had readings once a month. They used to have Cadence Club reading.
Are they doing
readings, Kevin Lee, stuff like that?
Yet?
Not that I know of. No, okay. I don't.
The only one that I've heard that is sort of doing that, I think, is the Ugly Mug.
I started to see things. That would be the next place I'd mention. I've gone there a lot. That's where my pants fell down. And that was a perfect place for it. It was a big group of people, and we laugh, and I liked that group a lot early on. Yeah, those guys. There was like a bar. There were like all kinds of readings everywhere that I went to. People at people's houses. There was one at a barber shop. I think you were at that reading one time. It was at a barber shop. Stuff like that. I started doing readings at Beyond Baroque in recent
Beyond Baroque's
years.
Legendary, yeah.
Stuff like that. But I've done some Zoom readings in recent years. I did something with Mike Sonkson recently and stuff like that.
Mike's good people, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been doing Zoom readings, but I haven't. Have I been to an in-person reading? No.
Have you been to?
No, the one in Oakland was in person. That was it.
Oh, right. Have you been to the Coffee Cartel in Redondo Beach?
Yes, I've been there once.
That's a great one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I always consider it a minor miracle. I haven't been there for a long time, but when I would go there probably like twice a month, I always considered it a minor miracle if I could get through like however many minutes they give you, 5 or 6 minutes to do 2 or 3 poems without the grinder going off.
Oh,
I mean, I get it. It's a business. They've got to sell the food and the drinks to keep the lights on, but there was always I figure like in the 20 or something times that I read there as an open mic reader, even that there was always just invariably there'd be like, you're pouring your heart out about some breakup or something like that, and then in the middle of it just and you're like, and that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
It's just part and parcel for what we do. But there's one that I think that you would like, and I don't know that they're open yet because I think that they're really involved with the University of Riverside, is Back to the Grind.
Back to the Grind, huh?
Yeah, they're located right off the university. But here's the thing, and I was just saying this to another poet friend of mine. The reading itself is in the basement.
Okay.
So it's like you have to go in to the cafe, go past the counter, and then there's like this other door. I was talking to Ellen maybe about that, and she's like, "Isn't that a cafe?" And I'm like, "No, no, the reading is like downstairs. It's like this hidden like beatnik gem of a thing where it's like I'm not saying people are wearing like turtlenecks and snapping their fingers, but you really do feel like you discover something when you're there because the last time I was there was probably maybe 2018 or something. But I went
Okay.
there for a few years because it was a really good place to try out new stuff because, with it being like a college crowd and being complete strangers, they're going to be the most honest with you, and if you get your 6, 7 minutes to read two or three things, that's a good place to try it out because if it crashes like the Hindenburg, you're going to know that you need to, work on it maybe, or, not. But I really like that place because it was just like, wow, it's like 85 degrees in this room, but people are just chomping at the bit to get up and just like share themselves. And they're not there to necessarily promote anything or being told that they should go there because it's a cool place. So I don't know. I felt really fortunate to stumble across that one. And there's got to be some other hidden ones that you found out about. I know we lost the oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. Rick Lupert's reading.
No.
That was a great reading.
Yeah. I've gone to some funky readings. There's a reading you can find of mine on YouTube. I did it in a pizza parlor for high school students. And I did it with like John Branningham and some other people from the Pomona area.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I did it. That was great. You can find the video. It's not just me, it's other people. It's like a 5, 6 poets. That was a particularly fun reading. And yeah, with the Pomona people, with John Branningham in downtown Pomona at the center that they have there, they've had me there before, and I've seen festivals there and some cool stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, for the longest time, I read in Santa Monica. There were a few readings in Santa Monica, but I think that one's still open on Second Street in Santa Monica. I think there's one in downtown LA called the World Stage.
I've heard of that one. Yeah.
Um, I live so far south now; it's hard for me to get up to beyond Baroque, but that's like that's like poetry heaven there because that place is like a shrine almost to poetry. There's been a few. There's one I think in Pasadena called the Poetry Lab. I haven't been to that one. I've heard that. I heard that one's a tough crowd because a lot of it is slam poetry, and I feel like I would just totally get.
Oh.
I think that there would be people half my age, and they would just bulldoze right over me, whatever I was trying to do.
Yeah, I feel that way sometimes.
I don't know, and to me, at this stage to try to do slam poetry would be just embarrassing and like a gimmick and all that, and I don't think I could even try to do it. But so what are some? So I know you've got this poetry and music project. What are some other goals and some things that you're like thinking about for like the next year?
I'd like to see if I can work on this second full-length manuscript that I have somebody looking at. I want to do that. I want to finish my music thing. I have a project with a small press in England that I'm working on right now. It's all of new poems that haven't been published anywhere. I'll work on that in the coming months. That'll be a small project. I started doing reviews for Cultural Daily here and there. I've got one to work on now. I like doing that a lot. I'm trying to get back. I tried to do a press, and I've done books with the press. It's like associated with Thomas R. Thomas's Arroyo Seco. It's called Dark Heart Press. I've put it on hold for now. I did publish a couple of books through them, and I'll probably do that again in the future. But it's just, yeah, I'm trying to keep it simple right now. I'm writing a lot, which is good. So, and I'm sending poems out, and people are looking at them. I'm sharing them with friends and stuff that I do normally, but not too much because my health did crash a little bit, and I really want that to improve so that I don't overdo it. But I'm excited. I'm keeping myself busy.
Yeah, that's the best thing you can do. I mean, I'm thrilled that things are finally opening up, and
It really
I don't know
is.
if you've had your COVID shots. I've had my shots, and so I think at some point I'm going to probably get a booster shot at some point.
Right.
But I just think that, I don't know if this thing is behind us. I want it to be behind us, but I feel like, and I've had this conversation with other people too, like I think 2022 is going to be a big year for a lot of people to just kind of get on with their life.
I hope so, man. I really do. It looks good. I have a more positive outlook than I did, for sure.
So you're definitely a lot more connected into the local um, scene there than me now, especially because I've moved around a lot in the last few years. But do you know of any open mics that are going to be going live? Because I know we talked about Ugly Mug, and I don't know about
Yeah.
Gatsby's or anything.
I don't know yet. I hope to find out though as time goes on. I want to see people again, hear them. So
Yeah, there's just I'm thankful we have things like Zoom chat so we can connect and things, but there's just nothing like being on a stage or in a crowd and like
there is
hearing
it.
people's words echo around the room. And then
Right.
not only that, but it's the simple thing I was telling Ellen about. It's like somebody that I've never seen before, and maybe they have some product for sale, or they're putting out their first chapbook, or they're so excited. But until you can have the person at a microphone reading it, and then have their you
Hmm.
know associate who it is with what it is. I think a lot of that kind of gets lost in the shuffle with Zoom chat, especially if you're doing an open mic Zoom reading, that you get like maybe like one poem because people can only do like an hour on a Zoom chat, and then they've got their whole life to get
Yeah.
back to before or after it. So it's kind of a
Right.
mishmash. But um, yeah, well, before we wrap it up here, I wanted to kind of give you a couple minutes to maybe go through some websites that you use to promote your work, and maybe the websites for some of the presses, so people can find your work out there.
Um, Presses that I'm associated with include Spartan Press. You can find that online. Stubborn Mule Press, CrisisChroniclesPress.com, Arroyo Seco Press. You can find these places online. There's Moontide Press. There's AnalogSubmissionPress.com. That one's excellent. I highly recommend checking them out.
Okay.
Um, Between Shadows Press, you can find them online as well. There's lots of magazines that I love, like Chiron Review and Nerf Cowboy, places like that, Main Street Rag, those book publishers, New York Quarterly.
Do you have a website with like your name in it or anything like that?
Not yet, not yet. I need to. At some point, I will. I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. So,
And then
so
you said that there's maybe some performance videos people can find of you on YouTube.
You can find performance videos of me on YouTube. Yes, there's some recent readings I've done before that were right before COVID,
Okay.
and some early one, the pizza. That one's the one I want people to see.
Awesome. Okay. Well,
Uh,
it's been about an hour, so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. But yeah, if there's anything you'd like to say to what I would call kids in high school and college that are like, based on your experience and all of the books and publishing that you've had the luck with in the last 15 years or so, just any advice you'd give to those kids that are just getting raring to go and they're putting out their first chapbook.
expect to fail, but give yourself the time and the patience to succeed. Because you got to just keep pushing. When I was younger, I gave up too soon, and that fucked me all up or messed me all up. That's not cool. I think that a lot of people have a lot to offer, and a lot of people have a lot of poetry to offer. I hear it everywhere, and I hear it. I heard it when I was at that pizza parlor with all those high school kids, for sure. That was the best audience I ever had, I think. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Been trying to
Yeah.
get you on for a little while here, and I'm so glad. And we're recording this in late September. It'll go up on YouTube in the middle of October.
Okay, cool.
And I hope through this video that you're able to, get some more sales of your books through Amazon, maybe, or get more. Nothing draws a crowd like a crowd. So maybe by the middle of the month, maybe some more open mics will be open for live readings, and hopefully this will bring in the cattle, or so to speak, to your shows. And wish you nothing but the best, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
No problem, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, you as well, man. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.